What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P here with another episode of Steelers Touchdown Under. As always, if you like the show, hit that like button during the show. If you're not a sub for us, consider being a sub if this is one of the multiple videos you're watching. And if it's the first video you're watching, you like what you hear, hit that sub button, hit that bell icon, you get all the notifications. But the Pittsburgh Steelers go down 13-10 to the Cleveland Browns. Honestly, the Steelers probably didn't play well enough to win this game. That's kind of take one. Like, they just didn't. People will talk about defensive plays that the team made on offense. It just wasn't there. These are things we are going to unpack and more in this 7 takeaway show. So firstly, where there's a Warren, there is a way. I stick by that comment always. Where there's a Warren, there's a way. He's had a great game today. Absolutely great game today. Loved what he did. On the field, he just plays with intent. 9 carries, 129 yards was huge from him. He had 16 yards as well, receiving off 3 receptions, off 3 targets. So that gave him almost just shy of that 150-yard game, but 12 touches on the ball there. Just fantastic from his perspective and what he provides. This team struggling with Najee Harris. I've said all season, I mean, struggling is probably unfair, but I said all season in terms of when it comes to Warren, the line is built more for a Warren-style running back than it actually is a Najee-style running back. That's just the reality of the situation, and it plays out week in, week out. So, yeah, first take, where there's a Warren, there's a way. He almost led the Steelers to victory. Number 2, I felt that the O-line could have played a bit better. I thought Cincinnati looked rough at times. I thought James Daniels looked rough in the first half. Dan Moore didn't play particularly well, to the point I wondered whether they were going to even consider, if things didn't do well to start the third quarter, whether Okorafor comes back in, you move Broderick to left tackle. It's a lot of shake-up in a game against Myles Garrett, so that would change the scheme of their run game. But I really didn't like what I saw from Dan Moore. Didn't like what I saw, some of the stuff I saw from Cincinnati in the second half. And I also, as I said, was pretty average on James Daniel coming in out of the first half. So the O-line has got to be better. Pickett was under pressure. I don't know. This play calling keeps manifesting itself in poor plays from with Kenny Pickett. I thought Kenny didn't have his best, probably had one of his worst games as well, in conjunction with that. And then let's talk about DJ, who's one of my takeaways as well. He just looked off today. He looked completely off the mark. 2 receptions. He had 8 targets in the end there. But he honestly, there was a play earlier in the fourth quarter where they threw the ball and Deontay just kept running down the field. Kenny thought he was going to come back. Now, I don't know whether Kenny made a mistake there, but to me, it did. Deontay was just off, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't bode well for this offense. So kind of they seem to be playing better when he wasn't fully there. Let's be straight. But the Cleveland Browns, credit to them, they have a great defense. They shut down the Steelers offense there. I would have liked to see more working in of Freemuth and Allen Robinson. If those guys aren't, being able to do anything in Pickens and Deontay. I did like the pass to Darnell. You saw the benefit of how big a body that is. He almost got the first down just purely based on his size from where he fell to where he was able to reach out. But yeah, not much positive to say around DJ and the wide receivers today. Big shout out to E-Rob. That's my next take. He's definitely stepping in. There were some massive hits. He drilled a couple of players. 15 total tackles, 11 solo, 2 for a loss. To me, he gets the defensive MVP today, or the defensive hat. He is absolutely he's doing terrifically well in the absence of Holcomb and Quan. Look, I think the Steelers looked shaky throughout the first half when it came to the second line of that defense in the linebackers. I didn't think they played particularly well. But E-Rob overall had a really solid game. You can't knock his performance. 15 tackles, 11 solo, 2 tackles for a loss. That's workhorse mentality. So congrats to E-Rob. Number 4, we talked a little about earlier. Kenny, and it wasn't great today. That's all we can say. Almost 50% passing with 14 from 27. 93 yards. No TDs, no interceptions. At least there's no interceptions there. 3 sacks. And remember, the Browns have very good secondary guys like Denzel Ward, Delpit. They've got Newsom there. They've got other guys as well, but they got a pretty good defensive back core. But yeah, 3 sacks wasn't great. Again, I put some of this down to the offensive line. But the Steelers, converting things like 3 for 14 on third down is just not good enough. The plays where they were the long plays and think about some of the drives they had, it just wasn't. It's not good enough. And I'm not saying, I'm not someone that criticizes Kenny that often. I think Kenny's developing. But when you go punt, 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 end of half, and you're down by 10, then you come out, you get the touchdown because Jalen Warren off an awesome play. Then you go punt, 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 field goal, punt, punt, end of game. Now, obviously, they've only got 10 points, so obviously they've only scored off 2 drives. But like 1 play, 3 plays, 4 plays, 3 plays, 7 plays, 3 plays, 2 plays. They literally had 1 drive in the second half that went for more than 10 plays. They had 1 drive that went for more than 8 plays, I think it is, if I recorded it right. Yeah, I did. That just isn't enough to win an AFC North football game. And same goes, they had 2, they only had 1 8-yard play drive in the first half. They've got to sustain drives. They've got to have multiple 8 to 10 drives per game, not 2. And I've got to have more than 10 a couple of times in the AFC North. Now, yes, some of that comes to run game, but the run game turned up today. Warren had his 129. The run game had over 170 yards. This has got to improve, and that goes down to Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada. I do think Matt Canada is a bigger part of the problem. I do think the offensive line comes into play, but Kenny's got to take this one on his shoulder, this loss on his shoulders as well, which I'm sure he will when the live press conference happens after the game. Team number 5, credit to Shannon Sullivan. You get an interception, always get a credit. Got it at a key moment. I'm keen to look at the replay of that. I actually felt like Porter almost tipped the ball out of the receiver's hand. But regardless, Shannon Sullivan was there, got on the ball. Great step up for him. He's been playing pretty well, I think, in terms of what he's come in and done. So massive credit to Shannon Sullivan there. And then, the other take I was going to have, but we kind of talked about Kenny Pickett, is third downs. It's just not up to snuff. 3 for 14. But what I will say, I'll add one other thing in there. I've saw a lot on social media criticism of TJ. I do think he's playing through injury, but at the end of the day, he had 6 tackles, 4 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss. The Steelers only had 1 sack. The Steelers only had 5 tackles for a loss. So that's a big game from him. The Steelers have overly relied on Watt in certain games. He's second on the season now with 11.5 sacks, 89 sacks through 97 games. He could hit 90 through 100 games. That's exactly the jerseys wears. How cool would that be? Hopefully, he can get more than that. Myles Garrett's chasing him down. He's in 94 games. I think he's sitting there on 87.5. So it's definitely a fun competition between them. But yeah, I guess to close out, Steelers fans, look, it is a tough loss. It is a loss on the road in the AFC North against 6-3 Browns team that did come back against the Baltimore last week and a 4-1 at home. Steelers now, a 2-2 away. At 6-4, it's not time to be throwing the dummy out of the cot, the bath water out of the bath. The Steelers can continue to get it done. 6-4 is not bad. They've literally got 7 games to go. You win 4 to 5 of those, you're in the playoffs. We can still do that. We've still got we're now 2-1 in the AFC North. We've got another game against Baltimore. We've got both games against Cincy. The Steelers just have to regroup, turn it on, and come out next week with a much better performance. But without that, as always, go Steelers.